Hello, and welcome to the Professor Podcast with Ruth and Claire. Each episode, we talk about a particular topic in the life of a professor. We are tenure-track faculty members in the sciences, working at a primarily undergraduate university in California. The purpose of our podcast is reflection, so we bring something we think is working and something we're working on to discuss. Hello, this is the Professor Podcast with Ruth and Claire. I'm Claire.
And I'm Ruth. So today's topic is discussing student researchers. And before we get into that, let's check in. How was your week, Claire?
It was good. And actually, one of the things I wanted to talk about with my week relates to student researchers, which is that we're going to a conference. I'm taking 3 students to a conference in a couple weeks. And the key thing that's happening right now is I, as of today, have 1 week to finish the poster that we're all bringing together before I need to print it. So that was on my mind throughout the week.
Dude, I want to ask you so many things. I'm scared of bringing them to a conference.
I've never done it before, so I'm kind of
scared.
What
if one of them gets arrested? No, I know. Sorry, that's not helpful. I'm like, do you want to be nervous about something? Like,
hadn't even thought about that, Ruth.
How far away is it?
It's in San Diego. So we're in Northern California. That's in Southern California.
Are you driving?
We are flying.
Okay, good. Because I was like, that's a lot of chatting time in the car. It's like, which could be good.
Could be good.
Yes.
But yeah. So, yeah, I'm simultaneously excited to bring them and excited to go to the conference, but also like, oh my gosh,
wow.
What do I have to tell them in advance? Have I told them all the right things?
Are you all going together?
I'm not sure. I told them what flights I was taking, and my wonderful husband is coming too, and so we're taking
awesome
those flights. I know, it keeps coming up. And
my husband's going to get pretty jealous. I need to start, but okay.
So I told my 3 students what flights we were taking, and one of them at least said he took the same ones, but I'm not sure about the other 2 yet. So yeah, but we're all staying in the same hotel, which is really close to the convention center, and I don't know, I think it'll be cool. But
okay, I want you to come back and give me step by step how to do it, so when I do it I won't be scared. I just feel like, yeah, I don't know. Like, how much momming do you need to do?
Exactly. Like, do I just say, okay, see you tomorrow?
Right.
I think
be like,
I can.
Let's get dinner, because you might need to eat something so you don't faint or something.
I think all of these students have gone on a trip related to research before, and I didn't really plan what they did. They made their own hotel and stuff. So I trust that they all can feed themselves and stuff like that. So I'm not worried about that.
Good.
Yeah.
And if they get arrested, then you'll have a good thing to tell us. You can let
I'll
us know.
report back in a few weeks. Yeah, that'll be good. So I'm excited and working on that.
That is cool.
What about you?
So my week this week, it feels long because I had to do a trip last weekend and into Monday. That was for other life stuff. But I kind of can't believe it's still the same week.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me?
Just kept merged together. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also... yeah, it's just feels, I can't believe it's still going. So I'm kind of really...
But it is.
We have made it. It's Friday. Yeah, so yes, I'm making it.
Great.
So yeah. So should I tell you my quote?
Yes. Tell me what your quote is.
It might be a little lost on you.
Okay.
Because you are not as old as I am. So you have not seen The Breakfast Club.
Okay, you'll have to explain.
Which maybe you should do immediately.
Maybe I should.
Yes, after this.
We'll stop the podcast.
Yeah. Take a little pause. It's about students who have to do detention on a Saturday, and there's a very mean principal, and he is the one who I'm quoting. And his name is Richard Vernon, and he is ridiculous, but he says, "Don't mess with the bull, young man, or you'll get the horns." And so I feel like I've noticed that the quotes I gravitate towards are very aggressive.
I'm noticing a trend here too. Professor Snape, this guy.
I know, I'm kind of harsh, but this podcast is working on reflection.
Oh, good.
Because I was thinking about why do I keep picking these really aggressive quotes? And I think a big fear I have is that I'm sort of jolly-ish, and I feel like people don't take me seriously.
I see. And
something I struggle with is authority, and having people being comfortable with students not liking me, and do you know what I mean? And just being... So I kind of want to embody a bit of this guy.
Right.
I mean, not obviously threatening students, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So trying to have some more gravitas and authority.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's so I guess that's something I'm yearning for.
Interesting.
And we will see where the quotes go from here.
Great.
How violent will they get? How great will it? Yeah. So tell me, with you, I think this week in particular, I feel like you have a lot of success with student research. So I really want to probe your mind about this. So do tell, what is going well for you with student researchers?
Cool. So I have like a two-pronged thing. Awesome. I have, on the one hand, it's been really great on the occasions when I've been able to recruit a student to my research lab early when they still have lots of semesters left so that they are able to learn the ropes and then still have hopefully 2 semesters where they can be productive in a more independent kind of way. And that is just fantastic when there's students that can, I can hand them something to do and then maybe get a couple high-level questions and they can carry on. Mm-hmm. And that's just fantastic all around.
Yeah.
They're getting, great independent experience. I don't have to do something. It's just absolutely wonderful. And then, at the same time, hopefully I'm training earlier students so that some of them can be in that position in the future. So that's worked really well. But then on the other hand, I've also found it to work well. I have a couple students right now who are more senior, close to graduating, and there were a couple that came to me with their own project that they wanted to do. And so I know, it was great. And so in both these cases, I just said, sure, I will help advise you on this thing. And then they have gone off and worked on it and put in tons of effort and it's their own thing and they're developing it. And I'm more of a consultant. And
wow.
So that's been really good.
So is it something related to your field?
Yes, related enough that I have some thoughts on the matter, but not exactly what I'm working on. And so there's a lot of things where I say, I don't know, go check the literature, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So, yeah. And, if it was too far away from my expertise, that would be a problem. But so that balance, it seems like those have been the moments when I felt like, wow, this student researcher thing is really working well, have been when I've either had a student for a long time and they've really developed and learned what we do in the lab, or when a student has taken a project and gone in a direction. Those are the moments where I'm like, wow, this is awesome.
Okay, so here are my questions. Okay. One is, when you have a student for a long time, is there a minimum you need them to have done class-wise before they can come work in your lab?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's something I just struggle with this whole thing, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. I do often select research students from my regular fall semester analytical chemistry class, and people take that at totally different stages. So a lot of them don't take that till they're seniors, so there's no chance of me recruiting those people early. So yeah, that's an unfortunate aspect of that. I'm not really sure how to reconcile that, because there's a lot of fantastic students who would be great additions in my research group, but I just don't even know about them until they're seniors. Yeah.
And so do you have kids who come in who haven't taken that analytical chemistry class, but you're able to kind of get them enough?
Yes.
But is that a huge time investment for you?
It depends. It depends on what they're working on and their background in chemistry besides that class. There's definitely been times where I've run across the students from recommendation or some other way, and they haven't taken the normal analytical class, and it's worked great. So there are certainly times where that works out. I just don't have a really good system for finding people.
Yeah.
Unless they're taking that class,
Yeah.
And of course, if they take the class, they know a lot of things already that are helpful.
I'm so chicken. Even when you're like, oh yeah, it's something that isn't totally your field, and you're like, sure, I'll be a consultant. I'm like, oh, what if I don't know the answer?
Sure, yeah.
Is that?
Well, that's why it's great when they're really quite experienced. As
you would need them to be strong students.
Yes, if they're close to graduating, then they've been around for a while. They have a pretty good idea. Usually they've taken my class and they want to do a project. They know it relates to something I'm interested in, but it's So usually I haven't really had a problem where someone says, "Can I do this thing that has nothing to do with what you're interested in?" So far that hasn't been a problem. But I see what you mean. I would definitely be scared to consult on something that I don't know about.
One thing that's I'm just getting into my list of things that are wrong, but one thing that I struggle with is I've had a couple of students who are very strong and enthusiastic and professional, and I kind of feel confident they can do the research. And then there's other students who I feel like you need to have taken these classes beforehand, but it's not always a hard rule.
Yes.
And so it's really I'm not sure how to have this awkward conversation of so-and-so is in your group and they're only in this class. So, so it's tricky. And I think someone else told me to sort of say, oh, well, they have a skill set.
Oh, that's a good
maybe
idea.
They can do really good coding, or I don't know what it is. But
the skill set I've observed through some non-conventional means that they have the skill sets already that they need to do this particular project even.
Right.
Maybe that would help, the particular project.
Right. It's not just in general.
Yeah.
So do you, how many do you have on the go at a time?
How many students? Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of the thing that's not working
maybe
for me.
Do you want to wait?
We'll wait for that.
Okay. So what is going moderately well for me? Sorry, I'm like
sure
very
it's
negative. It is. And I actually have an excellent group right now.
Oh, good.
And I feel like it's sort of independent of anything I've done, that they're excellent.
Okay.
And so
I don't think that's possible.
Well, no, it is kind of. And I think previously I've had the bar really low.
For joining your group.
Yeah. And even what you needed to do in it. And I didn't have high expectations. And I had something happen before where a student hadn't really done anything and then needed to do a seminar and kind of busted out all this really amazing work over a period of 2 weeks. And I was like, where was this guy? And so he did really great work and did this stellar seminar. That was amazing. And it made me realize that I need to have like expectations and output and kind of, okay, so for example, we have an on-campus journal. And so they also have a poster session. And so this semester, I'm very explicitly like, you will all be making a poster. And I think for me, that really even as a PhD student, it really focuses your mind when you're like, oh, I'm going to have to explain this in a couple of weeks. I need to, engage with it. So I think having goals where I have presentation expectations or possibly once you come back and tell me how to do it, bring them to a conference or that sort of thing. I think that would really help.
Okay. Yeah. Give a little more pressure so that students like that one can
they rise to the occasion.
Pressure.
Yeah, totally. And I think in the past there was a professor who was here and they had very high expectations of their students. And I kind of felt like, I was like, whoa, calm down. But actually I have one of their old students in my group and they have elevated everyone around them and have
interesting.
Like even every time they write any bit of code, they immediately write a file that goes with it that explains what the code is.
What a great strategy.
I know. And I've never done that.
Totally.
But they do it. And so I really appreciate that. And I think that I am not serving the students by actually not having high enough expectations, because maybe they will shine and maybe they will get this whole skill set and feel really good about it. So there's that. And I think I made some decisions about, I think previously I had let everybody who wanted to do research be in the group and I didn't feel like that was a problem. But then when people are there who are not actively participating, it actually dilutes everyone's effort.
I see. Yeah.
And I have that experience where you kind of feel like, well, so-and-so isn't bothering, so why should I? And I think it definitely does dilute the effort then.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about raising the bar.
A little bit, yeah. And I think, a colleague that we both know has a group that has been going very successfully for years. And they had sort of everyone can register for the first semester.
And then you need to prove yourself or something?
You have to have sort of done some work.
Oh, that's an interesting
and then
philosophy.
you can't kind of register for the next semester.
I see. Interesting.
And so that maybe is what I want to do. And I think I also realize just how little time we actually have.
Right.
And so I really don't have time to have group meetings where like a quarter of them don't show up.
Right.
Like that's just
totally.
And you just are repeating the same things over and over again.
And so if you didn't show up to group meetings, then you're out for next semester. That's a requirement or something like
or
that.
like, because we do give grades for the research credit, which I've automatically just given A's, to be honest. But this other professor had a whole rubric of like, if you miss 2 group meetings, you go down to a B.
I see.
Or whatever it was. I can't remember the details. But something like having that. And I think it's worth it because, again, some people are just amazing and do so much work. And that should be reflected in you earned this A. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Another thing it makes me think about is how different students seem to flourish under different supervisorial strategies, you know? Yeah. And so some people might do really well in kind of a, you know, we're not really talking about explicitly what you need to do. We're just letting you explore. And then sometimes that would work great, but other people need the pressure of the deadline or something like that, or really structured, these are the 3 hours every week that you're going to work. I usually give them 3 hours each week that they're going to work, but it seems like some students, we schedule it out. Like, what is the day of the week that you're going to come in?
See, that's what I need to be doing.
It works pretty well for a lot of, but there are some students who would work way more than that anyway, and so they don't really, I mean, it doesn't really help them to schedule it, I don't think. But I think a lot of students, that really does help to be like, oh, Tuesday mornings, 8 to 11, I'm always working on research.
And do you go and like patrol the lab and make sure they're in there?
Oh, well, this is coming back to my thing that's not working again.
Let's do that, because I was going to keep asking questions.
Yeah, so my thing that's not really, that I'm working on, I mean, it's working fine, but I'm definitely working on it, is that it takes too much of my time. Dude. And it's some combination of having maybe too many students, or maybe it's that I haven't structured it properly so that they can be more independent. Because there's definitely some of them where they're independent and they know what to work on, and when they're wondering what to work on next, or they want to run something by me, they come and chat, and that's perfect. And then there's others where, you know, I have decided what they should be working on, and so I need to give them things to work on each time, and that's also great, but I just need to figure out a way to do it where every time one of them is doing research, I don't have to think about it, you know?
I know. And that's basically my whole thing too.
Yours as well.
Yeah, I just don't, like, wait, are you done? Sorry, I'm just like talking over you.
Oh, well, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts. But I want to hear your thoughts too.
Well, tell me, do you have a group meeting, or is this all individual meetings?
A great question. So at the beginning of each semester, I say, hey, what time slots are available for you, and you can give me preferences, but ultimately I'm going to pick from the list of time slots you give me, so that I can, you know, maybe put two students together who could work on the same thing, or mostly that's what I like to do, is try to sort and put students together to work on, you know, sometimes it'll be two students just working on the same project, sometimes it'll be a more senior student kind of training a less senior student, or whatever it is. So then they have their schedule, and I have that on my calendar. I have it as a separate calendar so I can turn it on and off, because otherwise it just looks crazy. So then, yes, starting last semester, I initiated group meetings, which I had never really done before, and I don't have much experience with them, and so it was kind of a new thing. And one of the goals was, if everybody just meets at the same time and we talk about everything and everybody knows what they're going to do for the next week at the end of that meeting, then I don't have to talk to any of you until the next group meeting. Yeah. I mean, unless they have a, you know, hey, I had this thought kind of question, but I don't have to make sure that something is prepared for each one of them at each research time. Right. That was the goal. And I feel like I didn't quite reach that goal, but that might just be because I didn't quite have the group meetings figured out.
And when you're talking about 3 hours a week, is that 3 hours they are in the lab?
I say if they're researching on papers or doing data or whatever, that all counts. Or if they go to a safety training, that counts too. You know, anything that they have to do for the lab counts. So the group meeting counts. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I had it be 1 hour too. But yeah.
So what? So you have a similar?
Well, I think mine is slightly different to yours, because again, it's my laziness. But I struggle with time, and part of my struggle is I don't think I have my own stuff up and running enough. Okay. And I did spend a whole summer working on my code, and so that is really established, and I feel happy with just setting students loose on it. But the experimental work in the lab, I really struggle with. It's not up and running as well as I would like it to. And I kind of have two really strong students. One of them is also in your research group.
Oh, great.
Who is awesome. And I really want to get them to do as much as they can. Right. But it requires me to actually keep on it. And so, so I really want to get in. I should be going in there and setting up experiments and stuff. And so I really struggle with that, because it's just... teaching requirements feel more immediate, because it's like,
you are going to teach lecture
I have to be ready in class. And so getting researchy stuff done it always just gets pushed to the back of my mind.
Well, one thing that I really like about having the weekly, like, so-and-so is coming in at 2:00 on Wednesday, and we're going to work on this thing in the lab, well, then suddenly that becomes immediate. I need to have that thing in the lab prepared. And so in a lot of ways, some of my complaints about this taking a lot of time, if I assign them to the right things, there's my motivation to get the research done, so that does actually work out sometimes.
Yeah, I think, and that would kind of, because I was talking about holding expectations for them, but like for myself too. And if it's like, okay, I better have something ready for these guys. And I think maybe this is another episode, but because part of me was like, man, do we just need to get into the scholarship of teaching and learning research instead of experimental? But I really think there's value in this. And I think it really gives the students, I definitely have had students who have not, like, their abilities are not reflected in their GPA. And it's so cool that they have another opportunity.
Right. And you can explain all that in a letter.
Exactly. And like, there's people who just really shine in that situation. And it's kind of weird because sometimes they're the ones are going to be really successful in grad school because I don't know about you, but we certainly had people in grad school who came because they like getting A's. And then when they realized there wasn't classes anymore, they were like, yeah, I don't like this. And like leave, you know, and so research, they didn't like it. And so, and again, I think we said this, like, our school is tiny and giving all of our students any extra edge for grad school and stuff is awesome. So I don't know. I don't know. There is times I have a little bit of release time this semester. So this would be a good semester to get things up and running, but I just struggle with it. I really do.
Yeah. Well, I do recommend that extra incentive of telling the student, this is what we're going to work on Wednesday. And so
I really like that. And then that's like, yeah. And I think
if it is really is a priority, because that's sometimes an issue, is I do all these things and I'm like, oh, it's going to be great. We're going to get all these things done because I've, paired the task with a research student. And so it's going to happen. But sometimes I realize I misaligned it and my priorities are different than what I picked for students to work on. And suddenly I have to work on these things that I assigned with the student, but that wasn't what I'm, so you really have to make sure that if it is something you want to do, then you can add that pressure with the student. But if it's not, maybe don't.
Then yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
A lot to think about.
So much to think about.
So I think, I think I'm feeling the weight a little bit of like both having a little bit of release time. So it's like, oh crap, like if I don't do it this semester, it's never going to happen. And then like having these really strong students.
So it's a good moment.
A chunk of them are graduating.
Right.
And so I need to like harvest their brains and like, get all the good stuff out of them.
Train other people.
Yeah, exactly. And have them kind of bring up the next group. So
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say I'm really excited about the different ways of pruning the research group and keeping, because there's always more students who want to do research than I can accept. And just because there's too many. So then, to have some way of allowing more people to do it. If somebody came and joined the group and then it wasn't a great fit for whatever reason, it'd be nice if that person could go off and do something else and leave more space for somebody new.
Yeah, I wonder.
And so you had some interesting ideas about that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, I mean, and part of me is nervous again about like having people who are not really committed sort of diluting the effort. And I wonder, is there something you could do almost like assignments for the first semester? Like, you're going to read these papers. And then if they just don't do it, then you're like, okay, that's clear,
sure.
Or like, but reasonable things to kind of not sort of put more expectation on other students to sort of, I don't know.
Sometimes I like pairing a new student with a regular, a more senior student, and then that's kind of like a trial run. Is this a good match of project for them? So, because it's happened before where I did that, and then at the end of a semester, it was clear that while this person was a good research student, this just wasn't a project that was super interesting to her. And then I was like, oh, but I have this other project, and then that one ended up being a great fit for her. And so I liked that moment of considering after the first semester, what direction should we go here?
Well, and it's interesting too, because I think a lot of students come in like, but if that student did work hard on a project that wasn't that interesting to her, that's pretty cool.
That's true.
Like because I've had students come in and they have a very romantic notion of what physics research is. And they're very like, I did not come here to do this. And it's like, look, physics research is really boring. And most of the time, nothing's working. And, you know, the kind of willingness to do the really boring stuff and not just be discovering the Higgs boson particle in your lab or whatever, you know, is maybe that's a good indicator. But you don't want to put people off by giving them, but still some like willingness to do.
And that's also like one of the reasons that we want to have undergraduates in the lab is so they can learn a little bit more about what a certain type of research is and research in general. And so in this case, maybe they discover that they actually don't find that physics aspect really interesting. Yeah. But that's good because they need to know that rather than carry on to pursue a career in physics research.
Oh, totally. Totally.
So.
Okay. I think, is that bringing us up to time?
That's bringing us up to time.
Okay. Thank you so much, Claire. That is super informative.
And thank you, Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph. Oh, wait. Should we say our email address?
Yeah, so we would love to hear from you. Our email address is contactprofessorpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, we'd love to hear all kinds of things.
Yeah. What are your successful research things? What are the less successful research things? Have your students ever been arrested on a trip? And how do you deal with such a situation?
We would love to hear that story.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much. And thanks, Ralph.